And we're going to be doing beginning watercoloring together. So we're going to be learning some fundamental parts of watercolor. We're going to be learning techniques. We're going to be learning all the professional artist lingo about watercolor. Before we get started, I want to be sure everybody has the supplies that they need for class today. So we're going to need like 1 to 3 pieces of small to medium watercolor paper. And when I say that, to me, that means like half of an 8.5 by 11, just like a regular piece of paper. It's like about half the size of it. So if you have pages that are bigger than this, that's okay, but we're not going to be doing really big paintings. We're going to be trying to do paintings that are kind of this size during the class. And what we also need, just like in the picture there, we need 2 or 3 cups of water. The reason why I say to have 2 or 3 cups is because our water can get really muddy. So it's nice to have a couple different cups of water, and then you don't have to get up and pour it out and change it. It doesn't get your other paints muddy. So we also are going to need 1 palette or plate for mixing our colors. Well, the palette is the flat part that's next to the paints, like the lid, like the back side of the lid. That's our palette. So if you have one of those, great. I'm going to be using one of those today. And if you don't, you can just use a plate. That's cool. And of course, you need watercolors. So there's so many different kinds of watercolors. Any of those are totally great for the class. And the last few things that you're going to need is you're going to need paintbrushes, maybe a medium one and a small one. And then you're going to need a pencil and eraser, and you're going to need some paper towels. So while everybody's getting their last little supplies together, I'm going to talk about preparing your palette. So these are the colors that you are going to need today. You're going to need at least red, yellow, and blue. Those are the main colors that you're going to use at least. So you can mix those colors, and we'll talk about that as we go. So those are the colors that we're going to need. So today we are going to be painting our own version of a color wheel, and we are going to be painting gradients. We're going to learn how to paint gradients. I'm going to take one of my sheets of paper, and we're going to need to draw a circle. So I know that sometimes it's hard to draw a circle, like a really good circle. So if you have something nearby that's not too big and not too small, you can use that as the template. I have a funnel. I thought this was like the coolest thing to use as a circle. I was like, this is great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trace this circle, and I'm going to just So I have a nice circular shape. So got our circle, boom, there it is. And then you're gonna wanna get your ruler. If you have a ruler, I don't know if I mentioned. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna draw a line right in the center of the circle, but it's gonna go all the way from one side to the other side of the paper. So we're gonna kind of just go in half. So it's like this. So this is the first thing that we're doing here. We're gonna making, it looks like a circle with a line all the way through from one side of the page to the other. Once we get that done, what we're gonna do is we're gonna basically draw a big X through the circle. I'm gonna do my little X, like that. That's close enough for me. Looks close enough for me. So we have 6 parts here, six pie slices. On this top half of the drawing, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm actually gonna make it look like it's a sunny day up here. So I just put like a circle in the corner, and I'm gonna put some lines so it looks like there's a sun. So really simple shapes. I always talk like this. I did a curved line that's supposed to be kind of like the beach maybe. And I'm gonna draw some clouds on the other side. So we're gonna have this like sunny day with some clouds in there. And then I'm even gonna just draw a really simple boat. And it just is like a half circle, almost looks like a bowl. And then I draw a line for the mast. And then I just draw a little triangle off the side to make a sail. Super easy. Simple boat, simple clouds, you got some land. And then to make it look like water, I'm just gonna do some little like half circles or like W's, kind of upside down, or not upside down. So this is our first drawing that we're gonna do. So we're just gonna start with 3 colors. And first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna use our red paint. Get your paint ready. So what I do is I just take my brush and I'm just gonna dip it in my water. And then I get it, just as much water that is on the paintbrush. And then I take it over to where I have some already dry paint. So this might already be like in your little pan here. and you can put some on your palette. You want a nice, rich color. What we don't want to do is we don't want to have a big, soupy bunch of water on here. We're just doing little bits of water at a time. So when I say a little bit of water, it just means as much water as your brush can carry from dipping it in the water over to your paint. That's as much as we need. For this red color, what we're going to do is we're actually going to put it in this first spot here. We're going to color this first little pie slice in. And like I said, we want that to be really rich. So we're going to get that colorful in there. So once you have your red all done, you're gonna rinse it off in that other water. If you have another water, that's great. You want it nice and clean. And then you're gonna wipe your brushes. And I kind of like roll it, or you can kind of like roll it very gently, like back and forth. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna activate our yellow paint. So I'm gonna dip my brush in the yellow paint. I'm gonna put that on my palette over here. And just like we did with the red, we're just gonna be adding just a little bit of water at a time. So once you get a nice yellow all mixed up, and we're gonna be filling in this spot right here. So this is the spot. We're gonna skip the middle and we're gonna go put the yellow right here. And it's very important that you put these in the right spot. So we've got these two colors and they are above the sort of water line that we've created. Rinse that brush out really well. I'm gonna get that yellow out of there. So I'm gonna rinse it and I'm gonna wipe it on my paper towel. So the next color that we're gonna do is we're gonna do blue. And we're gonna be putting that one right here. And I'm just gonna start painting that in. You're all finished. So, and I'm sure a lot of you know this, but these are our primary colors. So this is what we're doing here. We're learning all of the different steps of our colors and what they are and why they are valuable. The red, yellow, and blue, those are the three colors that you can mix everything on your color palette. So in theory, if you have these three colors, you could mix all the other colors that you wanted to. In essence, the foundation of all colors are red, yellow, and blue. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna let our little beach ball dry. So I'm gonna set this off to the side, and I'm actually gonna grab a fresh new piece of paper. And I'm gonna get my pencil, my non-mechanical pencil. And we're gonna start with a couple of clouds. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a cloud in the upper left corner. So it looks like it's kind of like coming off the side here. Actually, I'm gonna flip that because that looks like I need a little more space on top. Okay, there's one in the lower right. And so we're gonna do a cloud shape. So it looks like it's kind of coming in the paper this way. And then up in that upper right, I'm gonna do a cloud shape off the page that way. So we have two clouds. And then what we're gonna do is we are gonna be building our rainbow shape. And I know that a lot of you might know how to do that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start off with a curved line that just goes from that top cloud all the way down to the bottom cloud. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna do that first line and then you're gonna leave some space and you're just gonna do one of these and you're gonna do that. So you have 7 lines that are drawn. So I'm just gonna keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is that right? That's right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually go back to our primary colors. And what we're doing over here is we're gonna be learning about gradients. And the reason why a gradient is when you go from like a dark to a light, or you could go from one color to another. And the reason why that we're learning about gradients is because I really want everybody to start to practice and understand how we can use watercolor and how we can affect the way that it looks. So if you have your rainbow drawing ready to go, what I'm gonna then do is I'm gonna start with our red again. And I'm just gonna do like I did before, just gonna add, you know, a little bit of water so it's nice and dark. And you want your colors to be really dark. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna start on this top line and we're gonna fill just a little bit. So don't jump ahead because you have to watch. So we're gonna just fill in part of our rainbow, this red line right here. And we're gonna do just about 1 inch of that. Because then what we're gonna do is while this is still wet, then what you're gonna do is you're gonna take that brush, I keep talking about this, we're gonna take this and we're gonna just dip it in our paint water So just it's water. So we're not adding more paint, we're just water. And then we're gonna blend a little bit of water on the edge of that red. And then we're gonna do that again. We might need to shake our brush out a little bit. You can dip it so it's not like soaking wet. And then you're gonna blend a little bit more. And you can see slowly, and the red's a tricky one, because there's a lot of that pigment in there, it's starting to get lighter. So this is what we wanna do. We wanna get this, so we're just doing a little bit at a time, and we're adding some clean water to that, just a little bit more, and then a little bit more. And you wanna do that all the way down so that your rainbow shape, it starts to go from dark to medium to light. And we're doing this once again to practice how to control how much water we're actually putting on the page. So you can see that transition and see how that shimmer that I was talking about before, that sort of like, it's like a satiny finish. This is what we want. When we're doing our watercolor paintings in class, what we don't wanna do is get it to where the paint or the water is so wet on the page that we make these pools and it's sliding around and it's running. If that happens though, that's okay. That's why you have your paper towels. See how it's kind of gathered at the end? It's kind of hard to see. What I just do is then I just take my watercolor or my paper towel and I just dab it and it soaks up that extra. You have your red, so then clean that brush off and then we're gonna do our yellow next. And remember, just like with our color wheel, we're gonna skip a line and then we're gonna do the yellow right here. And then we're gonna add just a little bit of water to lighten it and a little bit more. I'm gonna go ahead and add the blue also if you're ready to move on to where the blue is gonna go. Remember, you're gonna skip a line in between the yellow and then you're gonna put the blue there. So just like how we did before, we're skipping a line. So this is what I've got so far for my gradient practice on our rainbow here. So see how all the colors are starting dark on one end and they're getting increasingly lighter. So this is how we can kind of look at this range together. So I'm going to set this off to the side so this can dry. And one of the things that is really important when we're learning, when we're doing our paintings, it's really important to let things dry, especially when you're going to be painting right up next to them. Because if I was gonna start painting and this wasn't dry, then this paint that I'm gonna put down would go into these other spaces that are wet. So I'm just gonna keep going. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna be talking now about our secondary colors. So a secondary color is when you take equal parts of two primary colors. So for example, what we're gonna do, we're gonna fill in this little pie space right up here on our beach ball. This is gonna be orange because if you mix yellow and red together, it makes orange. You know, once again, to make a secondary color, you're supposed to take equal parts of two primary colors. But remember how I was talking about that tricky red? That tricky red that when you add enough red to it, it kind of takes over. So when you are mixing your colors, I'll try to move my palette so you can see, you might try to use equal parts of the yellow and equal parts of the red, but it might come out really red. So you might actually have to adjust that. So this is a good thing for us to learn and to talk about. I really would love for you to practice mixing colors though. That's a important tool to learn as a painter, how to mix your colors. So I have my orange here. So that's our first secondary color. And what we've actually just completed here is we've completed our warm colors. So the reason why we were doing this as like a beach ball floating in water was the top half of the beach ball is out in the sun. So these are our nice warm colors. And all of the other colors that are underneath here, those are gonna be our cool colors. So now let's go back down to our next secondary color, which we're gonna do is green. And once again, you can mix green by doing equal parts of yellow and blue. And just mix a green that I like to fill it in. So we can just see. So I'm I'm gonna do a nice bright green here. And once again, you can mix your own green by mixing equal parts of your primary colors, or you can just pick one. So we got that so far. And then lastly, what we're gonna do is we're going to go over to our next cool color, which is gonna be our purple. So I will say this, you can mix equal parts of blue and equal parts red to make purple, but purple, just so you know, is like the hardest color in the world to mix, because just like I was talking about, there are so many different kinds of reds. There's cool and warm reds, and there's cool and warm blues. If you mix if you mix the blues together, or you mix the blue and the red together, and the colors are kind of weird, then your purple might not come out looking like a true purple. So what I did, I found a purple that I really loved to use for my palette, and then it's always the same consistent color, and I really like it. So you can use that. You can try mixing your purple too. I would encourage you to do that, because it's really good to start to learn, once again, how to mix our colors. So now we have our cool colors. So we have our cool colors underneath the surface of the water, and our warm colors above the surface of the water. While this is drying, once again, I'm gonna move this over to the side. You can keep working on that if you want. And you can probably guess what we're gonna be doing on our rainbow. We're gonna be doing the same technique of our gradient on our rainbow with our secondary colors. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm going to mix my orange so that I can get that nice rich orange. I'm gonna wipe my brush in between so I don't mix the colors in. And I'm going to start once again really dark on this end, and then I'm just gonna be adding some water. This is what my little rainbow looks like. So you can see how it goes from dark to medium to light. And you can almost see too, like that really adds some dimension. It kind of adds this like a curve to it, right? So the colors that we're using and the way that we're using them really can look dimensional on the page, which is why we're gonna do this last little part of adding some dimension to our clouds, where you're gonna use the same technique that we did for our gradients up here, but we're gonna use the color black, or if you don't have black, you can use blue, or you could even use purple. I'm just gonna paint kind of along the bottom of the cloud line that I painted here, like that. But then, while it's still wet, I'm going to blend up with a little bit of water. I'm gonna soften that line that I just painted by rubbing my paintbrush on it. And I'm just gonna add some water so we kind of build this sort of gradient. And it doesn't have to be like a straight line. I'm just doing it almost kind of like cloud shapey as I go up. And you can do that on both clouds so that in the end, it will look like this. Whoops, there we go. So you can do that to finish up your rainbow picture. And then lastly, I'll just show you. So I went back and I liked my color wheel so much that I was like, I'm just gonna color in all the other stuff too. So I did those clouds just like I did on the rainbow. And then I did the sun over here and using the kind of the same technique where what we did, where you have it kind of darker in the center, and then you can just add some water around it and let it kind of bleed out so it gets really light. Light. And then I painted the water, and then I just added some little details on the water, some darker blue on top of the lighter blue. And then one color that we haven't talked about was the color brown. Brown is a very special color to mix, and it doesn't show up on the color wheel exactly, But what it is, brown is achieved by mixing two complementary colors together. And complementary colors are colors that are directly exact across from each other on the color wheel. Like red and green, and you can do blue and orange, and purple and yellow. So the purple and yellow and the blue and orange, they kind of make kind of weird browns, but a more true brown is gonna be if you mix equal parts of the red and the green. So these are our paintings that we did today. The last thing that we're gonna do is when we are all done painting, you have to promise me a couple of things. You have to be sure to rinse your brushes out really, 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 really well, and then you wipe them off very gently. You don't ever, 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 this is like the main rule in watercolor brush care, never walk off with your paintbrush in the paint water, because even just a short period of time, it'll bend your brush and it'll ruin your brush. Watercolor is really fun, and what I like about it, is that it doesn't have to be perfect. I use it in a way that's really kind of like, it looks kind of like splotchy, and I like it like that, so it's really fun.
Now, if you like that video, make sure you hit the like button to help us grow the YouTube channel, and hit the subscribe button to make sure that you get notified for future videos. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.